All right, guys. So today we have on the show another special guest for you, and he has traveled around the world. He is a speaker, an author. He teaches people how to be able to see their dream life and be able to acquire it and make it fun and easy to live that dream life. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you today Joey Drolshagen. Joey, thank you so much for joining us today. Our listeners obviously are going to get a treat. And, for those of you guys listening, obviously, Joey is the founder of IFGT coaching, life coaching, right? And he's spent over a decade traveling the world as a speaker, coach, author. What else have I missed there? Give us a little bit of background, Joey. Welcome. First of all, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Neil. I've been really excited to have this conversation with you. Like this is awesome. Truly, this is a gift for me. I'm real honored to get to be here and stuff. And yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered it all. My whole passion since I was 22 years old has been to inspire and motivate people to live better lives.
Yeah. And what is IFGT?
Excuse me?
And what is IFGT?
Oh,
IFGT.
IFGT.
Yes.
You want the real terminology, or you want me to use the one I give at church?
No, come on. Give us the real the real behind it.
Yeah, it stands for it's fucking go time. That's really what it stands for. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And like I said, this passion has been in me since I was 22 years old, and I became a student of the works I do then. But it's only been about 9.5 years that I've stepped out and done it. So it's really time to quit playing small. It's really time to live on scraps of what's available to us and really like kick it in the tail and move forward, with gusto.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. It's go time. Okay.
It's go time.
Yeah, that's right. So okay, Joey, first of all, obviously, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for the conversation we're about to have and what you're about to share. I know there's a lot of different things, and I know you are definitely a high energy, high impact kind of individual. But I read something, and if I can kick us off here with, I read somewhere that someone said that you teach. I'm going to pull it up here. They said that in addition to his infectious energy, you'll witness how he makes living your dreams living your dream life easy and fun using the tools and principles he teaches. And so, first of all, let me ask, is that an accurate depiction that you try to teach how to make living your dream life easy and fun?
I make it easy and fun. Yes. I make expansion quickly. I make it permanently, but I make it where it's fun. It's not drudgery. Yeah. If I can go into this for a second, Neil, so many people are out there coaching that if you want something in your life, you got to take massive action. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to put the rest of your life aside. And that's all BS. And it really is. Even the people preaching that have not taken massive actions in themselves and to get to where they're at. It's about, like, let me ask you a question. How many massive actions have ever led to massive results for you?
Go ahead. I would say, first of all, massive action is kind of funny. What defines massive action? Most of the time, I just look at it as taking action is massive for most people, but so if you just take action, right?
For a lot of people, but versus taking inspired actions.
Okay.
I just started working with a business owner last week, and I work with all kinds of professionals. I work with business owners and stuff. And I also have a 28-year career myself in corporate America, up to a vice
Yeah.
president of sales, specializing in helping companies that were in or going into bankruptcy to come out that other side back into profitability, and everything entailed with that, with customer retention, pricing, new ownership, like everything entailed with that and stuff. So I have experience in doing this. And I have experience in doing it the really, really hard way. The way that causes people to have strokes and breakdowns and things like that. And then I
Okay.
found ways of doing it in the things I'm doing today with the subconscious mindset training and such, on how people can do that much easier in their life. And so I started working with a business owner last week. His business is at 1.5 million. His goal is to go to 10 million. Okay.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
first week I worked with him, all we did was spend a half hour, 30 minutes talking about the possibilities in his life, like to increase what that possibilities is. So often people live on scraps of what's really available to them. And there's multiple reasons they do it that we can get into. But one of them is because they don't know the how. They don't know the how to get to that really big one. So they back off of what they say they really want to move that
Mm,
forward, to get something in their life, right? So
yeah.
in the half hour conversation, all we did was talked about expanding the potential of what's possible for him. Now, tell me that
Wow.
that wouldn't be an exciting conversation to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I talked to him this week. Prior to last week, he would have typically 4 to 6 rather, people that would sign up, to work with him for his services and stuff every week. Last week, from the time we had the conversation until yesterday, he had 40 some people sign up. The
Wow.
only thing he did different, Neil, was shifted his mindset on what he thought
Yeah.
was possible for him.
Yeah.
So when I say
Yeah.
it's fun, when I say that people get results quickly, that's the reason I'm able to guarantee my clients that they're going to get the results in their life and do it quickly.
Yeah. Well, I thought I was going to be really controversial and ask, why does it have to be fun and easy? But you're making a very compelling argument right off the get-go, and I didn't even throw that out there.
Well, think of it like this, for 28 years I was in that career, and it was never my passion. At
Yeah.
22 years old, I heard a gentleman speak, and to this day I don't remember what he said, but it just lit this flame inside the depths of my soul that I wanted to spend my life inspiring and motivating people to live better lives.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a low income blue collar family outside Detroit, Michigan, watched my parents both work to exhaustive efforts and all that, and then break down their health and everything. And I
Mm.
was taught that a man gets a job, supports a family, and hopefully lives long enough to enjoy some retirement. I was taught things like work isn't supposed to be fun. That's why it's called work. I was taught things like that. And so many people are tired of living by those, but they don't understand how the underlying subconscious conditioning pulls them back into it. For almost 3 decades, I was trapped in that. I had the
Yeah.
desire, I had the mindset, I had the plan, I had everything together for what I wanted to do, but I couldn't break out of that conditioning. And that's what so many people are trapped in today.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting. I heard someone talk. Someone was talking about the difference between working and playing, and I realized that what I do, I play, and as a result, I'm going to outwork you every single day of the week, right? Because I'm never going to get tired, and I find so many people they're always trying to work hard, and I'm thinking, well, while you're working hard, I'm playing, and
Yeah. I
I
categorize
I
people.
never get exhausted.
Yeah, I categorize people in two categories, right?
Yeah,
There's the spinners. That's the people that work more hours than anyone else. They put in exhaustive effort. They're
yeah,
constantly going, right? That's the people with taking massive action. It's the people that, can never
right,
get enough hours in the day. They live like that.
right,
And
right.
ultimately, what they get in return for results is exhaustion, burnout, and
Mm,
eventually fade off, right? They lose any opportunity to vision of what they really want because they're just so tired of it. The other
mm.
category is the crushers.
Ooh,
Those are those
spinners and
people.
crushers. Right,
Those are the people that take inspired actions. They're not
right,
taking massive actions into what they
right.
want. They take inspired actions. They get a vision lined up for what they want before
Yeah,
they step out into it. And then those
yeah,
inspired actions spell out the how for them. and doing it a couple times, you start learning that that will happen. So you have faith in that happening, and they step out. Those are the people that seem like they put in this much effort and get huge results, and their life just flow. And
Yeah.
crushers typically have more money, they're happier people, and ultimately they live better lives.
Right. Yes. Yes. I can very much agree with you. I've lived on both sides of the fence. And now here's an interesting one. I've actually found that there are times when I go back to with your spinners and crushers, there are times when I go back to spinning, and I almost recognize at some point, I'm like, I'm starting to get stressed out. Let me step back and look at what's going on, because I have a feeling like I've gone back to spinning some plates. And usually that's can that happen? Can you go back and forth between those places?
Absolutely. Before COVID,
Yeah.
like the bio you read said, I traveled the world. I love being live in front of people. I love doing workshops and live events and speaking and things like that. And then all of a sudden COVID hits. I didn't have much of an online presence at all.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so all of a sudden it's like everything just, I had 9 cancellations within 2 days of events that were set up around the US that I was getting ready to travel for when that happened. And so I did. I'm a human being. Even knowing everything I know, helping others with it and stuff, I went into a little bit of a panic mode because this is my life. This is my passion. It's my purpose. This is this is, like what I'm here for. So to have that feel like that's threatened, there is that initial part of that where it's like that, it can be stress, it can be fear, it can be anxiety, whatever it is. And we start there. And we're going to face those things as human beings. The good news is I have all these tools and I have things to turn to, so I don't spend days, weeks, months, and years there. I can start, I can, just like you said, that was beautiful. You said that, Neil. I can recognize what's happening, and I have power to make the choices to say, I don't want to live here. Right. What's really sad is people live their whole life in that place and they think that's how they're supposed to live. And they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. What I can say to that is that until I had my kids, I kind of lived that life. When I had my first, I've got 4 kids, but when I had my first daughter, it just got me thinking. I started thinking about what I was going to teach her, and as a father, what am I going to teach her, and and then I started asking myself, and do I live that, what I want to teach her? And very quickly I started realizing if I'm going to teach her to be her best, rather than all these, oh, you've got to do this, you got to do that. No, just live your best life, give your best. And then all of a sudden I started realizing that, oh, I knew I wasn't giving everything I had, because I'd come home after work or I'd be at work. Actually, I got in trouble at work a few times for doing too much, but that was a unionized job. So, it was one of those things, but it was a real game changer for me to start exploring that. What more can I do, and what more do I want to do? Where are those pieces missing? And so what you're saying is like, oh my goodness, that so hit me like a sledgehammer when that happened.
And Neil, what you're talking about is our longings and our discontents. What are you longing to be, do, have, give, create, experience in your life? And where do you feel discontent? Those are 2 internal growth signals that we are all born with, and they work perfectly for each one of us. But so often people use those as ways of stopping them, as ways of and what they do if they don't face those things, if they don't look at those longings and lean into them, all of a sudden they start having to back down on their self-worthiness, their confidence, their abilities, and what's available to them in life, because it's either one or the other. And the same with our discontents. So many people learn to live a discontent life. And I was one of those people. I had a coach one time that said, I want you to get so upset and angry at the first onset of discontent that you quit living there so long. and that's what it is. That's what I want to help people to understand, that like you have that awareness, help people get that awareness, and then do something about it to open up that world. And the reason I'm so God grateful, passionate about what I do is because I know each time one of us, just like what you're doing right here, Neil, each time one of us goes in and taps into our unique gifts and talents and brings it outwardly, the entire world makes a shift in that. With
Yeah.
what you're doing today, you have an audience, I have an audience that will spread, and then from there it'll spread, and we can't even comprehend how far of a spread that wake will have based on this conversation right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I have found, when you talk about taking inspired actions, I've found that, doing this, it's interesting. It provide, we provide to everyone else, but I found that it literally inspires me to hear the
Yeah.
conversation. It literally inspires me to hear someone talk about what they've struggled through and what they've learned along the way and what they've overcome. I mean, it's called Leadership to Wealth for a reason, because people they get a piece of the leadership that they've had to take in their own life, and then the wealth that's produced, whatever that may
Yeah.
be in whatever areas, right?
Yeah, it's
So
incredible. And you said earlier about, you don't consider what you do as work, you consider it as playing, and
yeah.
so doing this conversation right now is energizing for me. I went
Yeah,
to the I went to
absolutely.
the I've been getting up in the morning and running and then trying to go to the gym before lunch and stuff like that, and it's been going pretty good. But like, hour and a half workouts I'm back into for 4 weeks. And
Yeah.
and like I need a nap after that. After this conversation, man, I'm ready to go walking again or do something, but that's what it is when we're in that mode, when we're in our wheelhouse for what we
Yeah.
came here to do
Yeah.
in our life and we're living our purpose, it's recharging. It's
Yeah.
not work.
Gives you power. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you got me hook, line, and sinker here. Absolutely. So, so here's the question.
Yeah.
Why does it seem like so often we we don't get to that place until we're later on, like where for me, it was when my daughter was born, and then I started questioning that. You talked about you had learned some of this stuff, but it wasn't until later on that something changed. Why is it that seems to be the case for a lot of people, that it's not until maybe later on at some point that they something clicks and they realize a need for a change? And I say that knowing that oftentimes there are people that can go their whole life and just stay in that place, right? Which is unfortunate. But why do you find that oftentimes it's later on that people realize?
Okay, so like the way I like to describe this is great question too, man. This is a great
Okay.
conversation. The way I like to describe that is we can be pushed by our pain or we can be pulled by our vision, right? So
Yes.
when I was doing things like working in corporate America and
Yes.
it's not what I wanted to do, and it led me to overeating and gambling and alcohol later on and things like that to cope with living like that, because that's what happens, right? Somebody gets in a little bit of a bind and it's like, man, I went to college for 4 or 5 years for this, and now I'm doing it and I can't stand doing this. But holy crap, man, my parents paid for my college or this or that or whatever it is and stuff. And it's like it takes some time of understanding the importance of it, and nothing impacts that like growing age wise, getting older. All of a
Yeah.
sudden we start noticing that end is moving in, right? So
Yeah.
what happens is as people are getting pushed by their pain, at some point it's like, man, I can't stand living this way anymore. It's that discontent getting louder. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, where people start out like this, they're just closed minded with things. All of a sudden, it's like, man, this is not working. I mean, it's the same thing with how people spend their life. It's the same thing with somebody who desires to own their own business or a different profession. And then enough misery, all of a sudden, we start going like this. And we open up a little bit, and then we open, until we become an open book, and change happens, transformation comes about and stuff. But it's really about that push by our pain, the pulled by the vision. It's kind of like an analogy of being in a kayak going down a river, right? Pushed by
Mhm.
your pain is you're rowing up current, right? You're trying to paddle up current, and you can make some headway and things like that, but you're putting in a lot more effort. You're burning your muscles more. You're doing all of that stuff. Where if you just turn around and all of a sudden let the current carry you, it becomes easier. But part of the whole thing here, and like this is part of the thing I found at probably 24 years old, is if something came really easy to me, Neil, it felt like it wasn't right. Like I didn't earn it. And that's part of that conditioning that people have to overcome that and understand it. It really is supposed to be easy. It really is. When I say that about easy, fun, impactful thing, it really is that's how life is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But we were taught differently than that because we saw the people before us struggling that gave us our conditioning. We saw, hardship. We saw things like that. And so it became the norm. And when something's normal for us, it doesn't mean that it's the right thing. It just means that it's normal. It feels normal. So when something happens opposite of it, all of a sudden it feels uncomfortable. But to get change, to get uncommon results, we have to take uncommon actions. To do that touches on fear.
Yep. Yes.
So as we get older, it's not like, I don't want to say it like this, but as we get older and see that end closing in, as we have things happen, like we have children born, and it's like, oh my God, I went through the same thing you did. I have a 25-year-old son, and I thought, I don't want to raise him to have all of this crap in him that I have.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't know what it all was then. And so, all of a sudden, what I tell people is my whole goal is to help people when to listen to those longings and discontents and get into a program that helps them bring about those permanent changes in their life. But so often people wait for a wake-up call. And it doesn't have to be negative, but like an illness, a sickness, financial situations, losing a job, like things like that, and then they become willing. It's just our willingness. But we control that really when we understand it. We don't have to get into that much pain to make those changes.
Wow.
That was a lot. I know. I'm sorry.
No,
did that make sense though?
Yeah, it did. And you know what I was just thinking about, even as you were sharing about your son and not wanting to teach him or train him in that way. As a father, I was thinking, man, that must have been, what a moment that must have been to look at your son and think, man, what am I doing here? What am I showing him? And how that must have been both a push and a pull in that moment.
Absolutely. The push, everything I talk about, I talk about no judgment, but there really isn't judgment. When we add judgment to this stuff, we just add such a high level of complexity to it and stuff. If you take the judgment out of it, so it's not good or bad, it just is. And you look at it, that push is a good thing because it got us started.
Yes.
Without
absolutely.
Push, I never got to the point of developing a vision to get to live this life and have the impact that I desire to have on other people's lives.
Yes. So you got me. Go ahead.
We all start with some level of that, and we go through what we go through.
Yeah.
But one of the big key things, and it used to be up until probably about 2.5 years ago, it was really like 85% of my clientele, I'd say almost 87% of my clientele was females. Because females are more willing to reach out, ask for help and things like that.
Yes.
Men have that freaking John Wayneism thing going on. And what I tell people is he wasn't even the same John Wayne we saw him when he wasn't on camera, but we lived by that. We were taught that and we lived by that. And now I'm starting to see where more men will step out and ask for help. Because that's one of the big things, Neil, is we're not meant to go it alone. It says iron sharpens iron. But when we, and even when we go it alone, I work with a lot of people like in recovery and such. And I'll tell them when they come in, get somebody to work with that's been here longer. Because if you don't, you're relying on you and you're the one that got you here in the first place.
Yeah.
Your best efforts landed you into a recovery program, and the same thing with people, really the same thing with people that are living that mundane life and dragging themselves to work and can't stand Sundays because they're in dread of Monday, it all starting again and stuff. They're the ones that put themselves there, whether they realize it or not, they are. So getting yourself out of it is going to be very, very complex on how to do it.
It's almost like the, what's that? Seinfeld, George Costanza with putting stuff in his wallet, and he keeps putting, and his wallet's getting bigger to the point that he's like trying to close it. And, this thing's gigantic until he finally puts one last piece of paper, which happens to be this girl's phone number, and he puts it in there and he tries to close it and boom, it explodes. That's literally the picture that you're painting for me here. Is one of the things that happens is that we keep stuffing things in, like, oh, it's not that. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right until we get to a point where either we just kind of keep doing that, or we get to a point where it finally breaks. Is that
that is so insightful right there, Neil. I mean, when I talk about that, because what happens is looking outside of the wallet thing is somebody will get to where they can't stand their job, but they got fears of looking for another one or doing something different. And so all of a sudden they'll start overeating. All of a sudden they'll start binge watching TV. All of a sudden they'll start drinking and escalate that. They'll start finding things like the casinos and things like that they normally would not have entertained, but because they're trying to push this stuff down. And we all know best case scenario is you live a fraction of the life that's available to you using things like that as coping mechanisms.
Right.
Worst case is you end up in where those things lead you to ending up with health issues or things like that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, we got grim real quick there. Okay, so let me just back up here to, because we were talking about, all right, we've got all that stuff that gets filled in there. And I'm just thinking of, if we were talking to our younger selves that don't have, well, they probably both have a certain set of baggage. I know I had a lot of baggage, but part of that baggage also made me say that I could get through all these things, and I went ahead and did whatever, and everything seemed not that bad until it was really bad.
Yes.
And so, there are a lot of young men now. If we're talking to the 18 to 21-year-olds, they may or may not be in post-secondary, like they may or may not be in college, university, and they're transitioning their life. COVID's happening, and they're not sure where do I go from next, because they're asking themselves the question of, I'm not really sure what I want. I'm not really inspired, or I don't know what inspires me, because maybe they haven't had enough of something that's broken the camel's back. Can you say something about that, or to that segment?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, one of the things I did is I have a nonprofit organization where we're going to high schools and we work with 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And instead of looking at what do you want to go to school, how much money do you want to make, what kind of paycheck do you want, with the doctors, lawyers, and everything else and stuff like that. What would you love to do? Like, what kind of things do you love to do? Do you love to help other people? Do you love to work alone? Do you, and I take them through a process to help them to really define, outside of their parents' expectations, outside of all teachers, outside of all of that, what is it that you would love to do? Because we might not hone in on 18 or 19 years old to dive right into that and do it, but we start laying that pathway. Now people are going forward from a much younger age at what they want to do and defining that and growing more into that than trying to pick something based on a paycheck or somebody else's thoughts or things like that. And I'll tell you, I had a client, growing up in Detroit area, I played hockey, I coached hockey, things like that for my son all the way up to high school and stuff. And one of the kids that I had coached had called me up a few years ago now, had called me up and he said, he still called me coach. And he goes, "Hey coach, I can I talk to you?" And I go, "Yeah, absolutely." He goes, "This should be the time of my life. I'm going away to college." And, he still played hockey and stuff. "I'm going away to college and stuff. And, I should be having the time of my life here. But all I'm doing is playing Xbox and smoking weed. And I'm thinking about dropping out of school. I can't stand living like this. I don't know what I want to do." Everything you just talked about, Neil, and going into that, using things, to deal with pushing down the pain of where they're at, And so right away, I wouldn't work with him for a month until he could be fully clean on marijuana. I don't work with people on drugs or, things like that and stuff. And then I ended up working with him. And within 12 weeks, Neil, this kid, I mean, it's just so freaking amazing what happens. But he decided that he loved doing stuff with computers. So he wrote this program for automobile dealerships to auto sign people up for the warranty and things like that much easier. and put this thing together, went out and showed it to a dealership. And now he's got in like, I don't know if it's 35 or 40 different dealerships and stuff. And they pay him to do the programming and stuff. And he's just freaking loving his life. Now he's expanding into other areas. He partnered up with somebody. He's got something else going on now and stuff. And and when we get that purpose, and people start taking actions into that, and they have some assistance in doing so, it's amazing what can happen. This kid didn't see himself beyond following his dad's footsteps of working for an automotive manufacturer and getting a job behind a desk and living there until he retired.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing.
He was 20, 22, 23 at times, so a little bit, but starting then and moving into that, there's so much more available.
Yeah. When you look at your own life, do you see yourself at that age, and can you look at it and go, oh yeah, here's where I was at, and this is what because you've been working on this development for a while. Can you look back and see the things that were getting in your own way?
Now I can look back. See, for a long time in my 20s, once that ignited in me, I was like, I'm all in, I'm all in. Yeah. And I couldn't figure out what kept stopping me. I'd take all these courses. I started getting into getting coaches and going through different programs and everything. And really, the way I understood everything, it was all around mindset, right? If you talk positive and think positive, then you got to get there. And so I dove into that,
Yeah.
While I was in the corporate thing, and I'd learn something and I'd start to kind of come out somehow. And like I'd walk into I used to call it a wall of fear. I'd hit that wall of fear and it was like, oh, I must be doing something wrong. And I'd go back to the starting gate. Later on, I realized it was all of that subconscious conditioning that was controlling me. And no matter how positive, I bought that. Remember The Secret when it came out?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I bought the VHS because I'm that old, and then I bought the
Don't worry. The moment you gave the reference of John Wayne, I thought, he needs a new reference. Although he may look like a young guy, but he's telling us his age right there.
It works for me though, Neil.
Yeah. And I know John Wayne too, so
yeah. But anyway, so I bought those and I dove into them. I thought, man, this is it. This is going to get me there, And after about 5-6 months of really deep diving in, I was like, this is garbage. And what I didn't understand back then that I would find out later is once I started identifying that subconscious conditioning that was really running my life, then once I understood that and started shifting that, then I could see how the universal laws, all of that stuff, Think and Grow Rich, all of that stuff works perfectly. But what it fell short on is the application is as unique as the individual applying it. The way you would apply those to you is based on your conditionings, your patterns, your paradigms, your desires, all of that. That's completely different than how I would apply it. Does that make sense? So when I work with clients today, I tell them I got a path that will go down. I don't have your answers, though. I don't know what it is you're going to do in life, but I am really, really good. And I care a lot about helping you find out what those are quickly and stepping into them.
Yeah. Well, since we're on this topic, you teach something called SMT.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that since we're just talking about that right now? Yeah.
It stands for subconscious mindset training. And it's really shifting and shifting that conditioning in our underlying. So let me give you the best example I can think of is we have a conscious mind, right?
Yeah.
Our conscious mind is the words we use, the thoughts we entertain, what we watch on TV, who we hang out with, what kind of things we do. All of that's in our conscious mind. We choose that, whether we think we do or not, we do.
Yeah.
Okay. The subconscious mind, all it does is receives whatever the conscious mind, it just absorbs whatever the conscious mind's focused on. So every act we've done, every thought we've entertained, everything we've ever said or heard or things like that is in the subconscious mind. And then the subconscious utilizes the body to carry out the actions to the life that we experience. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
So mindset is important because the thoughts we entertain, the words we use to describe our, one of the things I tell people, Neil, is how many of you would ever speak to another person the way you talk to yourself?
Right. Absolutely.
That's what I get is a chuckle out of that,
Yeah.
But and it is funny, and I understand that. But think about that. That's what we're experiencing in our life. Somebody who says, "Oh my God, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. I don't feel good." They get sick a lot more than somebody who talks about being healthy, right?
Yeah.
That's an example of that. So what happens is all the stuff that we've absorbed in our conditioning and everything is in our subconscious and runs through the process of like the motherboard of what we do in life, the actions we take, what we entertain, what we don't entertain, what we believe is possible, all of that stuff. And so somebody who's got the conditioning that a man gets a job, supports a family, and hopefully lives long enough to enjoy some life in retirement will live trapped in that unless they go in and shift that conditioning.
Yeah.
That's what the whole subconscious mindset, I have a few different programs, but the programs I work with, the people I work with now, the application of it is very unique, but it's all based on subconscious mindset training. Because when we shift that, man, we open up the world of what's possible for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. Because I grew up with the mindset of you have to work hard, and it's hard to make money. It's not easy.
Yes.
Right. And that people are going to try to, you got to watch out for people because, they're going to try to get you, or they're going to try to steal from you, or they're not going to, they're going to go behind your backs, or all of these kind of things. And so you've got all of life working against you. And so you've got to be strong. And so that played in the background for a long part back there, a long part of my life. And it's not surprising to look at it and go, yeah, that's kind of how life occurred to me.
Yeah. And what happens is, like one of the big ones for me was money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think? I would draw another.
It used to grow on trees. Now,
it's still
primarily plastic.
Today it does for me. But you're right.
Well, here in Canada, it's all plastics now. So
that was good. But think about like having those thoughts and everything you think about doing, everything you desire to do. You have those tapes playing in the background of all that stuff. How limiting would that make life in that? And so many people are not even aware that that's what's controlling their life.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that we've established that is there, our subconscious is really pushing the show, and it's what it's meant to do. Information comes in, it goes back there, and it, you can't think about every function on the conscious level. Your subconscious is going to have a lot of that stuff, and it's going to push it back out for you. Now that we know that, the question, of course, that people ask us, well, how do I change that? How do I identify what's playing back there, and how do I go about changing it once I see it?
I love to meet people asking those questions right there.
One of the things
found, really, Neil, because one of the things I found.
So let's put a plug right here. So if you're listening to this, you're watching this, and you're asking that question, how do they contact you?
Anybody can reach out to coachwithjoey.com and schedule a 10-minute conversation with me. And you'll be amazed in a 10-minute conversation what we can cover. I mean, I've had people send me testimonials or speak testimonials that say that 10-minute conversation changed my life. It opened up a stuck areas I was stuck for years or decades on that it opened up. So all they got to do is go to coachwithjoey.com. Really easy. Pick a date off of my personal calendar and a time that works for you. Fill out some information, and the day of the conversation, we'll get laser focused into whoever I'm speaking to.
Love it. I love it. Okay. So now if they see themselves right there, you love working with them. Tell us.
So here's the thing. The first thing I tell people, because like you said, Neil, if you can't do anything, some people will, like, I'll talk to them and they'll go, oh yeah, I didn't even know I did that. And they'll get kind of ticked off at themselves, and I go, don't get like that. Celebrate it, because your awareness is the first step towards shifting that in your life. If you're not aware of it, you can't do anything different. So the first thing is to be aware of it, like you said. And the way I do that is I have people, I tell them, start focusing on the words you use to describe yourself. Start focusing on what thoughts you're entertaining. Start focusing on, and I'll make it much easier in a second. Start focusing on the people you're hanging around with and the conversations you're having and what you're watching on TV. And like, I'll run into so many people that are just stuck with CNN, constant negative news from every avenue they can get it, and almost like they thrive on it. No pun intended there, but it's almost like they thrive on that in their life. And so what I tell them is the easiest way to be aware of it is start leaning into what feels good. Speak of things that feel good. Speak of things that, you want to experience in your life. Speak of things that are expansive for you. As you do that, the other side is going to show up. So that's the first starting point to it, right? Now you have the awareness of it. And then you can start looking at, there's a multitude of tools and my programs are geared towards that, but there's things you can do to start shifting those. Like, I'll give you an example, is it's taking the limiting beliefs that you have. I do a thing on TikTok almost every day, and I'll take a limiting belief and we'll create a more empowering belief for it. And I'll just pick one. People will send them into me and stuff. And I'll say, okay, welcome to the Daily Brain Train. The limiting thought today is, like one of the ones I used last week is, do you should all over yourself? How many people do that though? So what I do is, like, for instance, I took one of them and money doesn't grow on trees, right? What do you think we are? The Rockefellers, like those types of thoughts and stuff. I know I'm showing my age again with Rockefellers because there's other people, but I like it. So it works for me. But, money doesn't grow on trees. Come up with a new empowering story. There's so much financial abundance available that every living, breathing person could have more than they could ever use. And there would still be an unlimited supply. That money literally grows on trees because it's paper.
Yeah.
Once you get the awareness of the limiting thought, you build a more empowering replacement thought for it. And then forget about the first one. Just start living in that one. Use it as affirmation. Use it as your life truth. Use it as, like, start really leaning into and putting that on. I promise you, Neil, anybody who does that for 2 weeks, 14 days straight will start seeing life different in whatever area they do that with.
Wow. Yeah.
And they'll start noticing the outside world start showing up more of that way as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what I'm hearing, you're literally speaking some of my journey, and you're literally condensing some of the journey that I've gone through in life. And because I'm literally, I'm literally looking and thinking, that's so interesting, because you talked about celebrating when you become aware of something. And I realized that actually that's an interesting habit that I have. When I identify a failure, something, whatever's that comes up there, I try to think, that's awesome. That's great. I've now learned something there, or I've seen something there that is now an opportunity to, what do I actually want in that area? It's like it's like you were tripping on something in the dark, and now all of a sudden you get to see it, so you get to go, oh, let me move my son's shoe out of the way.
or the blocks, because those are the ones that really hurt. But yeah, behind me there, up on that top shelf, there's a book. It's blue. It's called Life's Lessons, and it's a book I wrote, and it's all about this. It's when I started looking in my mid-30s, when I was making that transition from mindset, starting to go into the conditioning, understanding of it and stuff, is I started looking, and I came up with this thing. Okay, now this followed Pushed by Your Pain. This followed a divorce, a surprise divorce after a 19-year marriage. It followed my retirement at 45. I was ahead of schedule to retire at 57, and that divorce dwindled it down to a couple $1,000s. It followed a year after that. My dad passed away of cancer, and just over a year after that, my mom didn't want to be alive without him, and passed away, and I found myself an orphan. So all of those things led up to this point of being in so much pain in my life. I didn't know where to go or what to do with it. And I ended up coming through a series of events and leaning into it, I ended up coming up with this, that life happens for us and not to us. And if that's the case, the only way I could see what it was is I had to take the judgment out of it. I couldn't look at a divorce as good or bad. I couldn't look at like any of that as good or bad. It just was. And if life happens for me, I could start asking the question, why is this happening? And all of a sudden, I could start learning lessons I would have never, ever learned before through the events that I was the victim of. And it really moves us from living a life of a victim, of understanding how life is helping us to grow and expand, to live in that purpose of what we came here to live. And the whole book is a writing of that process and what happened and the events and things like that that led to it. And that's one of the big things I teach people. Now, if you look at your subconscious, and if you look at somebody who's had some things happen to them, like we all have, that led to conditioning that they now play safe and they play smaller than who they really are and things like that. When you shift those and understand what the lesson is in that, what the life lesson was in that, all of a sudden it just sprouts immediate growth in people. Mm-hmm. I don't know why my camera's doing this. I'm sorry, but yeah, it just ignites that growth.
You keep every time your camera does that, it gives you a zoomed up feature. So it's maybe great.
That's not bad then. He's too close.
It's like that intense moment, in a movie where all of a sudden they bring it in close. And
you said that, but I'm just noticing I'm kind of wearing a whitish and you're wearing a darkish. So if you're
perfect contrast.
But no, that's what it is really. And so I can help people who live after divorce and they're in all that anger. And you meet people who've been divorced for 8, 10, 12 years. And the first thing they talk about is what their spouse did to them and stuff, and help them understand, that hero's journey, is helping them understand that you can take how to convert that emotional energy associated with those events into fuel to launch our life beyond what we could have done without those events.
Yeah. Wow. I think you copied your book off of my book. I'm kidding. I don't have a book, but
wow, you really played that well.
But what you just said, I'm like, that absolutely. That's verbatim. Anyway, I'm a little stunned. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay, because I help people that way. Okay. And that's great for the outside things and stuff like that and stuff. But internally, we all have that work to do as well. So when I say about, again, I'm going to go back to when I say about this is fun and easy to do, think about taking, when you start noticing things about yourself where you've been kind of crunching yourself down for years or decades.
Yes.
You take the judgment out of that and look at what it's there to taught you, what it's there to teach you. And all of a sudden you get that spark of that. And it just launches you into doors opening, opportunities, potentials, all this stuff showing up almost instantly based on it. That's what I mean about it's fun. When I help somebody start with creating a dynamic vision for their life, and then we let that vision pull us into it, any shifting you have to do, any of that, the patterns, paradigms, conditioning, any of that shifting you have to do, it's done with ease because it's leading you deeper into the vision of what you truly would love to experience in your life.
Is it possible to have that vision, passion, purpose when you're young? Is it possible to have that then, or do you almost need to go through a period of finding out what you don't like before you can go that route?
That's a great question, because a lot of people think is you got to live some life and you got to get some experience and you got to do some falling down and things like that, and you're going to experience that anyways regardless of what you do. One of the things I tell people, Neil, is our vision is as alive as we are. So as we grow and expand, our vision grows and expands. If we're breathing, our vision is breathing. So if you take somebody who's young, which is a whole nonprofit, in the schools and stuff,
right,
taking somebody like that and you get them sparking a vision at that age and living through there. I mean, think about if honestly, like if I could have been doing this from 22 that I've been doing the last 9.5 years, how much bigger that impact would be.
Almost like
you don't have to go on.
Almost like vision without having a vision without judgment, to allow it to be free to move and grow. Now this is what I'd actually love taught in schools. Is this kind of stuff. A lot of people, obviously leadership to wealth. A lot of people think of the dollar signs. They think the financial. And so I always get asked, shouldn't we have financial education in the school system? And I think, and I say, well, there's a problem with that, because whatever you standardize so that it can be taught across the whole school system will end up being some sort of watered down version. And then on top of that, you now give a basis for people to, part of business is being able to move and shift and all this kind of stuff. Once you get a basis, everyone thinks, oh, this is the way you go. And then they're not looking for any of the other things, right? So it almost becomes a handicap, as opposed to what you're talking about right now with is really like my daughter's headed off to university, and even for her, the ability to be able to have a vision, to have a dream, and to not apply judgment to herself, it is difficult for her, because she watched me applying a whole bunch of judgment to myself for all those years. And now, and I'm like, great. I can see how I've stuck that on her, and she's going to have to work through that. So what you're talking about right now, I'm thinking, man, I wish that was in the school system.
Yeah. And the thing that makes it hard about that is like, one of the things I'm really down on, I don't remember if I said this or not yet, but one of the things I'm really down on is these coaches who, the massive efforts, the 5 a.m. club, the things like that and stuff like that, where it's kind of like treating like people becoming robots.
Right.
How to do it. That's the problem with schools, universities, and things like that. That's why, like, like if I could go to a university and have the impact that I'm having, I would do that, but it wouldn't be that way, because it's structured in a way for people to be robotic. When kids are going through classes after class, it's structured as robotic. And this is the complete opposite of it. Like, one of the things I'll tell you, Neil, is I only work with 8 clients at a time. And the reason I do that is because my phone is open to them when they run into patterns and paradigms, which the whole program is designed for, that they can pick up the phone, call me, we can shift it right there and such. There's a lot of coaches out, and I learned this the hard way. When I first started getting coaches, I'd look for somebody that was working with a lot of people, because I thought, man, this person's got to be good. Well, when I did that, and I was one of 150 or 200 people in a program, I didn't get no personal support out of that. And so these coaches that are just hurting people through their programs, what they're doing is using coaching as a way to build their own personal empire. I totally disagree with that. I work with 8 clients. When I'm done working with them, some people will keep working with me, others will leave. As people leave, we open up an enrollment and put people in there, and we have waiting lists of people and things like that and stuff to get to work with me. But I do that so that, because this is my passion, this is what I'm here for. I have more than enough money. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff always flows with it. And I don't worry about that at all. I just, like, this is what springs me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things I love that you mentioned, like, and I was really excited to talk to you from your podcast and stuff, is because like you just said a minute ago, wealth is not just money.
Yeah.
It includes money. But if you had $1 billion and you were on an iron lung, or you had no relationships, or you were just, your life just, you were in a dungeon of a life, or you worked your butt off your entire life to get that money, how much fun is money?
Yeah.
So wealth is balanced with all of that combined.
Yeah. Yeah. In truth, I don't even really believe in money. It's going to sound funny, but I don't really believe in money. I believe that that's just a value that gets assigned to the value that you provide. And as you do that, when they talk about attracting money, I kind of separate it from the, I'm just going to think about it and it's going to come to me. The value you provide, that wealth just comes. It's amazing how that just comes, because you open yourself up to helping people and what you can do. And so I almost say, look, that's a byproduct. It's going to happen. That comes regardless, right? You can't stop it.
Yeah, right. But I do put importance on money. Like right now, I'm growing $5 million. And the reason I'm growing $5 million is I have a Life Ignited Institute, which is coaching other coaches in the programs that I have in the subconscious mindset training, so that I can broaden the impact I'm having on this world with the works I do. And that's what I need to fully kick it off the right way and hire the people and building blah, blah, blah and stuff. So when I look at that, but I'll have a lot of people who will come to me and they'll start working with me and they'll do their vision, and their vision, they want to be a millionaire. And so as I'm reviewing their vision, I'll go, why is that? And they go, because I don't ever want to struggle again financially. And I go, okay, then we got to stop. Because if you're trying to build a vision or to overcome a fear, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So figure out what $1 million means to you, what the impact you're going to have, how you're going to, and even people like, that listen, your audience and stuff like that, who have financial goals to their life and things like that. That's great. But make sure that your financial goal is not to overcome a fear somehow, because it won't work that way. Figure out a positive purpose for building that wealth like that. Like the Life Ignite Institute. One of the things I love to have my client deck filled at 8 people. It's because I love what I do and stuff, but also it has money coming in, and I can make sure, because my staff is called the Dream Team. I have 4 people on my team, and there's no boss. Everybody is living their passion. The person that does my social media loves it. My promoter absolutely loves what they do. The people that are on the team are doing things they absolutely love doing. And I love to be able to, give out extra money here and extra there and share and do fun things with it and stuff like that. So it has importance to me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's not that in itself is not my main driver. I love it for what it can afford us to do. And give and share and play. One of the things is I decided, about 5 months ago, and then I put it down for a little while, but I'm starting again next weekend, is I'm getting certified to hang glide.
Ooh.
And it's just more adventure. That's what those things allow us to do, is they allow us to expand in the adventure and truly, we get this one life this time around. We live one time here, and the years go by quickly. You're either filling it with things that you truly love, or you're filling it with struggle and mundaneness. And we get to choose that. And the bottom line message I love leaving people with is, it may not seem like it, but it's your choice. The way you're living your life truly is your choice. That's not a judgment. It's just understanding. The reality of our life is make-believe. The reality of your life, Neil, is make-believe. The reality of my life really is. The reality of our life is make-believe, because it's based on our perceptions. So at any time, you can shift your perceptions and experience life completely differently. That's the good news. You want to know the bad news?
Yes, tell me.
Each of us has to make that choice to shift those perceptions to change our life. Nobody can do it for us.
Yeah, I think that's an even better news. But that we get to make that choice, right?
We can.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing opportunity. Okay, I hate to do this. I got to ask. So what? Because we're running up on time here. What's next for you?
Well, right now, like I said, revamping everything over to more virtual and stuff. And as I'm doing that, it's so funny. As I finally get, my heels dug in with it and get some ground on it, is I went up to Michigan 2 weeks ago and had 4 speaking events live in 3 days, so as I'm going this route, that route's opening, but we're growing and expanding and just like I said, continuing the process that we follow, because it works and brings dynamic, guaranteed results to people. But also, like I said, growing the nonprofit and going into schools and working with more people, growing, getting ready to gear up over the next probably 18 months to kick off the Life Ignited Institute and start bringing coaches in and certifying them, so we can spread the footprint that way. As far as leaning out, I'm starting to get more live speaking engagements again, where it's as part of a panel or different things that people are doing over weekends and stuff, and just really loving, really living and really basking and loving my days and what I get to do.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I said that about springing out of bed in the morning, but I do. Now I force myself to lay there for 5 minutes and just start my day off and get centered in my mind, get my intentions, things like that, but then it's like, okay, I can't lay here anymore. I got to get up. I want to get moving. I want to, and I didn't used to be like that. I used to start work at 8 and I'd get up at like, force myself to get out of bed at 9:15 and get in the shower, and head off to the office and yeah.
Wow. Joey, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for sharing, so many different things. You shared my life in what you were sharing, and I really appreciate that. And there were some areas that I was like, oh, I'd love to have gone in more. It just means that I've got an excuse to invite you back on and hear how the journey's going. Let me ask this question. Because you mentioned TikTok. How do people get a hold of you on TikTok?
Yeah, it's I think most of them are Coach with Joey.
Coach with Joey.
Yeah,
love it.
One of the other ones on TikTok would be the Daily Brain Train.
The Daily Brain Train. Okay.
And it's all about retraining. It's all about taking limiting thoughts and expanding them. Social media, Joey Drolshagen, or Facebook, LinkedIn, all of them. But honestly, Neil, the easiest way for anybody to get a hold of me is go to coachwithjoey.com and have a brief 10-minute conversation and just see what's possible for you. I don't sell. I just share and I give and help people do things, and the right people come in to do, the things we do together and stuff. So
yeah,
my last close-up right there, people.
Yeah, it's great. Love it. It's only fitting. It's only fitting. I said it's only fitting that you should get that last close-up, the last action shot.
You actually look a lot better at it than I
do, though. Well, listen, Joey, thank you so much, guys. This has been a great show with Joey Drolshagen. Did I get it right? Drolshagen.
Beautiful. You say it better than I do, Neil.
Joey, thank you so much. Again, it's been a pleasure for really helping us to look at our mindset, and not just look at it and observe it, but even the opportunity to even understand there is an opportunity to be able to redefine that, change that vision, and to be able to, with some techniques, be able to live a dream life that is fun and easy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an honor to get to talk to you today, Neil. This is really, really enjoyable.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.